Welcome to the Run Your Day podcast, a show dedicated to helping you expand your capacity, take your life in every area to an entirely new level, and creating a day and a life by design. Here's your host, Dan Hafner. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Run Your Day podcast. As always, your host, Dan Hafner here, creator of the RunWage app and founder of the Run Your Day podcast. Today's topic is this: how to strategically take risks. As always, I sincerely appreciate you joining. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. All right, my friends. So today we're going to talk about how to strategically take risks. I apologize. I got a little got some shit in my throat. Anyway, so I got this idea to talk about this topic from an email I got from, I think it was a subscription I subscribed to a long time ago. A man by the name of Matt Fury, and he has a company called Cybernetics. If you ever heard of it, it's founded by Mr. Dr. Maxwell Maltz. I think Maltz. I might be saying that incorrectly, but basically he founded this entire. For those of you that don't know, he was a plastic surgeon back in the day, like 50s and 60s. That ended up in this world of psychology because of the people that he saw that he did facelifts for and plastic surgery for still had the same self-image as them. Went on to create this entire field called Cybernetics, right? I don't really have time to explain all that. You can look that up and Google it for yourself. I'll include a link in the show notes to all that different stuff. But this email is talking about risks, right? And this concept around why even take a risk, or how do you take risk, or the perceived social injustices, or I guess misconceptions, I should say, not injustices, misconceptions about what risk actually is, right? So let's think about this. Let's dive into this. What is risk? Like, what is risk inside of your world and my world? Risk implies the potential to lose something, right? Risk implies loss. Risk implies a wager. Risk implies a potential benefit versus a potential pitfall, right? That's really what the essence of that is. So now you take that and you apply that inside of whatever domain you're pursuing, right? Whether it's business risk, right? That's, I think, where first people come into, like money risk, relationship risk, time risk, investment risk, right? There's risk all over our lives, right? We risk our lives every day just getting in our car, driving to work. Well, many of us don't drive to work anymore, but you know what I mean? There's always risk. There's always risk present. Now, you might not be consciously thinking about that risk because at a deeper level, you are kind of accepting of that risk, no matter what it is, right? Whether you're getting on a plane, or whether you're getting in a car, or whether you're making a financial investment, a significant financial investment, or whether you're buying a pack of gum at the dollar store, whatever it might be, right? So how do you get yourself to a place where you can strategically take risk, right? Where you're actually strategically weighing the benefits versus the outcomes. Now, without getting into all kinds of insurance software and cost benefit analysis stuff, like there's a whole bunch of different rabbit holes you can go down inside of that world, right? Like you could get super, super technical with this real fast, right? But how do you practically do this, right? Let's just use an example. Let's use an example of a financial investment, right? Say you're going to invest, $1,000 into something. Let's call it a round number. Now, there's a potential upside, right? Say you're trading the stock market. There's a potential upside for you to make more than your $1,000 back. Maybe you have the potential upside for $2,000, but the potential outcome for that is like a 1% outcome, right? There's like a 1% chance, or maybe even less, that you'll get that $2,000 back or make $2,000, right? Now, there's the possibility on the downside that you could lose every single penny of that $1,000. Buy an option, it expires worthless, you lose every cent of that $1,000. So what's your risk reward ratio, right? if you can possibly double your money, or you can possibly lose all that money, you have to be comfortable with the downward possibility of that and be willing to accept that as a default outcome, right? As a default outcome. Like, you have to assume that you are going to lose the worst. And people will be like, well, aren't you just assuming the worst all the time? Inside of this concept, yes, you really have to be okay with the fact that, like, the worst possible outcome could be that outcome, right? This actually was a life-changing exercise for me when I started to walk through. I was introduced to this concept of, like, what's the worst case scenario, right? Like, what's the worst case scenario? You have these stories in your head, these things that you go through, these things that you're scared of, you're fearing of, you're weighing this risk. You're like, oh my God, I don't know what is going on, right? And then when you really sit down and think about it, you're like, okay, what's the worst case scenario if this were to happen? Well, I'd lose my job. Okay, then what? Well, then I'd have to find another job. Okay, what if you can't find another job? Well, I have to collect unemployment. Well, what if you have to collect unemployment and you run out of that? Well, then I start to lose my bills. Well, then I end up homeless, and then I end up declaring bankruptcy, and then whatever. Like, you go down this rabbit hole, and you're like, okay, well, at the end of that, I'm still alive. I'm still wiser for the knowledge. I'm still whatever, right? So you get to that end, and you're like, oh, okay, that potential outcome, it might be bad, that worst case scenario, but at the end of it, you're not dead. You're not at absolute rock bottom, right? So what I encourage people to do is to actually think through this, right? When you're weighing a risk, when you're weighing a decision, use the potential all the way downside, or that's a really bad phrasing of that, but like, use the potential full downside as the default outcome. Like, I'm investing this money, or I'm investing in this time, or I'm taking this job, or I'm starting this business, or I'm starting this relationship, or whatever it might be, and assume that it's going to go to shit. Just like, assume the worst. Are you still okay with doing this? If so, anything above that is a win, right? I hope this like reframes your brain a little bit on this. Now, is this a pessimistic way to go about it? Maybe. Depends on your view, right? If you're always expecting the worst, but everything doesn't always come out to the worst, are you going to be happier because of that? I don't know. That's up to you. Right, but for me, when I started going through and playing out the worst case scenario of every decision and every risk management thing that I could go through, I started to be a lot less stressed. Like, I started to be able to make decisions a lot more quickly, because I was like, well, you know what? I've been weighing this decision to join this group, or like take on this, buy this software, or start the app that I started, or do whatever. And I was like, well, you know what? Like, even if I crash and burn, even if this never gets used, even if this turns out to be an absolute waste of time, effort, energy, and money, I'm okay with that, right? Because then I had that stress relieved. So now I could move forward with power and with purpose into that, and knowing that outcome is not likely, that outcome is not going to happen, because I've already gone through that in my mind. I've already played out that scenario, and I'm okay with it. I've come to accept it. I've come to be like, okay, you know what? If this risk does not strategically work out the way that I wanted to, I can live with myself. I know I have enough to fight another day. I know I have enough gas in the tank to go another round. I know I have enough left, whether it's determination or money or time or investment or whatever it might be, to fight another day, right? And and this comes back into the risk-reward ratio. You never want to risk everything. You never want to gamble everything that you possibly have to lose on something. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. But if you're comfortable with losing, with looking like a fool, with being crashing and burning at an epic level, it gets so much easier to take risks, right? It becomes so much easier to take risks when you're just be like, you know what? Even if I crash and burn and make an absolute fool out of myself, I'm strategically further ahead than I was if I didn't do this at all. Because guess what? That worst case scenario, it's not going to happen. I can almost guarantee you it will not happen. Whatever it might be, whatever domain of your life that you can apply this particular episode and this lesson to, it won't happen. Like something better will happen because of the risk you took. Something better than the worst case scenario for damn sure will happen because you took a risk. And the more you get comfortable with taking these risks, the more comfortable you'll be with actually growing and letting go of those things, letting go of what you're hanging on to, right? Letting go of that comfort zone that you cling to so tightly, preventing you from taking these risks that you know you need to be taking, right? Isn't that right, Jack? Yeah, I know. Oh, I wish this was on video. Jack's joining me for this episode. Oh, I know. Are you ready to take some risks, bud? All right, my friends. So my question for you today as we wrap up this episode is this. What is the worst case scenario for the risk you are considering inside of whatever domain of your life, inside of a business, inside of a job, inside of a relationship, whatever it might be? What is that worst case scenario? And are you willing to accept it? That's it. That's all it is. And if the answer, it's a yes, no question. It's a yes or no question. And if it's yes, do it. If it's no, rethink it. That's it. That's simple. It's that simple, my friends. All right. So that is all I have for you guys today. As always, I appreciate you all joining. Head over to runyourdaypodcast.com. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to Kelly Howard. Check out the Fit is Freedom podcast. I appeared on her show here recently. I'll put a link to in the show notes to that episode for her podcast. You guys already know she was on this show as well, and I appeared on her show, and it was awesome. So I highly encourage you to go check that out. And that will also be on the Run Your Day podcast site as well. All right, my friends. So get after some risks, do some stuff, live epically. Live epically, my friends. All right, my friends, that is all. I'm saying my friends a lot. I don't know why I'm doing that. All right, everybody. Dan Hafner signing off. Make it a great rest of your day. Hey, have you ever thought about joining a virtual run challenge? As COVID-19 continues to upend our lives and change our life routines, finding fresh ways to challenge yourself physically can be difficult. I know I'm having trouble with that. It can also be pretty hard to connect with others and find accountability partners for the purpose of fitness as well. That's why we created RunWage Virtual Challenges. RunWage Challenges are a new and exciting way to stay physically active and maintain social distancing. Every challenge takes place 100% online, and you can compete against and engage with runners from all over the world. Best of all, they are the only virtual challenges out there which actually reward participants with real cash. That means you have no excuse for staying inactive during this pandemic. So if you've been looking for a fresh and interesting way to stay active and get your miles in, go to runwageapp.com/virtual challenges to join me and the diverse community of runners already competing. That's runwageapp.com/virtual challenges. Can't wait to see you there.